Hello, I'm Victoria Robinson. I'm an ecologist and sustainability scientist at the University of Leicester in the United Kingdom. I'd like to introduce you to the Sustainable Futures module, and today I'll be introducing you to the first session of this module, entitled The Complex World. Sustainability is not a black and white concept. When you ask people about sustainability and sustainable development, lots of people have very different views. However, the definition most commonly given was that of the Brundtland Commission in 1987 when they produced their paper, Our Common Future. The Brundtland Commission's definition is that sustainable development meets the needs of today without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. Whenever I ask people about sustainability or sustainable development, this is the definition I am given. The Brundtland definition comprises two important concepts or components. The first is the idea of needs. So the essential needs of the world's poorer people and the fact that we should give overriding priority to those. And the second is the idea of limitations, and the fact that the limitations are imposed by the state of technology, social organisation of systems. So not everybody has the ability to meet their own needs in the same way. There are limitations to how well people are able to develop in a sustainable manner. So there are three main pillars of sustainable development: economic growth, environmental protection, and social equality. There is general consensus that these three pillars contribute equally to sustainability and the idea of sustainability. However, it's difficult to find equal levels of initiatives that address each of the three pillars in any country's policies. There is an overwhelming number of countries which put the economic growth ahead of environmental protection or social equality. And that means that by having more weighting on one of the pillars, the other two pillars inevitably suffer. So, what do we mean by social sustainability? Social sustainability is the ability of any social system, so it could be a community, it could be an industry, it could be a family, it could be a company, any social system, to function at a defined level for a prolonged period of time. And if that doesn't happen, essentially things like war, reduced access to education, endemic poverty, widespread social injustice, all of these things mean that you cannot have a sustainable society. When we talk about environmental sustainability, we're talking about the ability of the environment to support a defined level of production and environmental quality, natural exhaust extraction for a defined period of time. This is the world's biggest actual problem. We're currently using far too many of our resources too quickly. So the environment cannot regenerate quick enough for us to be able to actually sustain our current reliance on our environment. But as the effects of this are not felt straight away, it means that it's often put at a lower priority than economic growth. And that is a real issue because the environment, society, and economy are intrinsically linked. However, we have seen in the last 20 years the environmental protection becoming more prevalent at the forefront of different countries. The USA and the UK are both slowly putting more of their resources into renewable energy to reduce our reliance on fossil fuels. When we talk about economic sustainability, this is what most countries focus on, what most industry focuses on, and essentially the message of economic sustainability is that it is the ability of an economy to support a defined level of economic production for an indefinite period of time. This is the world's greatest perceived problem. So, since the Great Recession, everybody's been very focused on the economy and when the economy will collapse. And that's pushed the economy back to the forefront. But again, we need to think about the three pillars on an equal level. So, the environment, social, and economic pillars of sustainability can often be shown in this Venn diagram, where you can see that you have to have all three for something to be sustainable. If something is environmental and socially sustainable, then it's considered bearable. If it's environmentally and economically sustainable, then it's viable. And socially and economic, then it's equitable. But it has to be all three in order for something to be sustainable, truly sustainable. This idea was proposed by Robert Goodland in 1995 and is often the way that the three pillars of sustainability or elements of sustainability are depicted. However, more recently, people have suggested that there could be a different way to show what sustainability and the intrinsic relationship between the three elements. It's been suggested that the environmental pillar of sustainability, the environmental protection, is actually a limiting factor. Because we live in our environment. Societies are dependent on their environment. So in order for a society to be sustainable, it has to have a sustainable environment also. And when we look at economy, pretty much every economy is reliant on the environment in some way. So industry, we need raw natural resources. Anything that produces anything that runs on anything that uses energy. All of this comes from the environment. So without a sustainable environment, it's not possible to have a sustainable society or a sustainable economy. So it's been suggested that a better way to depict the three different elements of sustainability is actually to have society and economy within the environment, because the environment is a limiting factor. Dr. James Martin wrote a book called The Meaning of the 21st Century. In this book, he describes this generation as the transition generation. Dr. James Martin said that this could be humanity's last century, or it could be the century in which civilization sets sail toward a far more spectacular future. Decisions that will lead to these widely different conclusions have to be made soon. They depend upon our being able to understand the options of the 21st century, think logically about our future, and collectively take rational action. We live on a small, beautiful, and totally isolated planet. But its population is becoming too large and growing rapidly in its desire to consume products that need resources way beyond what the Earth can provide. Technology is becoming powerful. It's becoming powerful enough to wreck the planet. We're travelling at breakneck speed into an age of extremes. Extremes in wealth and poverty, extremes in technology, and the experiments that scientists want to perform. Extreme forces of globalism, weapons of mass destruction, and terrorists acting in the name of religion. If we're to survive decently, we have to learn how to manage this situation. Now, Dr. James Martin's book is incredibly good. I would recommend everyone reads it. It's very thought-provoking, and you may not agree with everything that he says, but this is the wonderful thing about sustainability. Everybody has a different opinion, and you will get so many different viewpoints on the same idea. But what Dr. James Martin does is incredibly thought-provoking. He talks a lot about mega problems We are currently in this time of extremes. Nobody can deny that we are experiencing more extreme weather patterns, more extremes on an everyday basis. We can see how extremes in wealth and poverty are becoming more and more common. We're experiencing mega problems. Problems such as climate change and global warming, which are bandied about all the time now. You can't open a newspaper without hearing about the effects of climate change somewhere. Climate change has become a very big topic of conversation. But it's not the only problem. Population is growing at an alarming rate. The world's population is currently 7.3 billion. And there are predictions that it could reach 9 billion, 11 billion by the end of this century. We can't sustain this type of population growth. We're losing biodiversity at an alarming rate. And without biodiversity loss comes severe problems for humanity. We're polluting our natural resources. We're weakening terrestrial systems, mass erosion, soil that has taken decades to form is washed away in one rainstorm. There are places where 90% of the water is undrinkable. People have no access to clean water supply. There's poverty, inequality everywhere you look. We know that people are in debt. Countries are in debt. You can't, again, listen to the news, open a newspaper without hearing about debt and conflict. And pandemics such as AIDS are still striking in all over sub-Saharan Africa. We have so many mega problems to face. And we've got to do something. Because as Dr. James Martin said, we are the transition generation. Our time is now. Something has to change. So I'd like you to look at the preparatory readings and do some research into what you think sustainability is and what it means to you. Think about it in terms of you personally. What is your view of sustainability and what does sustainable development mean to you? What about scaling it up? What do you think it means to your family, to your local community? What about your country and where your country fits within the globe and the population, the entirety of this planet? We can't all just think about ourselves, but think about what everything means to you. When we go into the facilitation session or workshop, you're going to be looking at sustainability from different scales. So I really hope you enjoy the Sustainable Futures course, and I really hope you enjoy this session. Thank you.